welcome to the Sustainable Fashion Podcast. Joining us today is Sae Chang, President and CEO of the Clean Recycling Initiative and Heat MX. The Clean Recycling Initiative is an open source program for everyone in the textile industry to make recycling textile waste less chemical and energy intensive. Heat MX provides breakthrough innovations in a wide range of textile applications, from apparel to gloves to sleeping bags. Heat MX's technologies have been recognized by the ISPO Top of Innovations Awards. Joining us alongside Sae is Anna, a McGill student and the lead of the Clean Recycling Initiative McGill Case Competition, and Ken Yang, the Marketing and Communications Manager of Heat MX, and also she oversees the marketing of Clean Recycling Initiative. So we will start with the Clean Recycling Initiative, actually. Tell us, Sae, generally what the Clean Recycling Initiative is about, and more specifically, what is the inline method, the pre-consumption method, and the post-consumption method?
Well, sure, yes. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity for us to participate in this podcast. And what you're doing is something very important. So, as an industry person, I really, really appreciate. In order to explain the Clean Recycling Initiative more effectively, I'd like to cover some important information first. Number one, people think that recycling is good for the environment. I'm sure we'll have more discussions about this along the podcast, but I think everybody remembers the garbage crisis that we had several years ago because China banned the importation of plastic wastes. In fact, the garbage crisis was all over the world because China was a major source of importing plastic wastes. So if recycling is so good for the environment, why would they ban it? In fact, many other countries like Thailand and even third world countries in Africa, they all banned the plastic waste importations. Why? Because it's a dirty industry. It's opposite to what a lot of people think. And if it's so good, it's like a virtue in the textile industry these days, because a lot of my customers are even asking, "Oh, is your product recycled?" And so it almost seems like it's a virtue in the Western world to use recycled material. But why are these countries banning? Because it creates so many negative environmental impacts. To name a couple, uh, throughout the recycling processes, which involve a lot of heavy mechanical processes like the grinding, crushing, chopping, it creates a lot of microplastic contaminations. Also, it uses a lot of toxic chemicals such as bleach, dyes, and etc. So it is not what a lot of people think it is. Number two, we focus more on the plastic recycling. Of course, plastic recycling is important, but if you think about it, plastics do not contain harmful chemicals, whereas textile waste contains toxic chemicals, which leaks into the soil or even in the air over a long period of time, and also sheer quantity of it. And if you compare the weight of the plastic waste versus the textile waste, we actually throw away a lot more textile waste. In the meantime, there are a lot of people, in fact, most people think that the textile goods that they put in the local blue bins or donate to Salvation Army, it goes into some type of recycling process or reused by people in need. But it's not the case, unfortunately. And in fact, recently, CBC covered this subject on their marketplace program, and they did such a great job. And according to that report, basically less than 1% of the textile waste is reused or recycled. So there is a really a big discrepancy of what we should be focusing on versus what's happening in the market. Number three, there are some very wrong things are happening in the industry. Obviously, there has been a strong outcry from the public for the environment, and a lot of companies like the retail brands or um, even manufacturers are pressured to react. But as I mentioned, recycling is not a good. I cannot say it's not good for the environment, but I have not seen a net benefit of it according to any study out there versus what I have seen in the market. So, um, but a lot of these brands and manufacturing companies rely on using recycled material. And one company in particular, it's a global fashion company. They are doing some kind of promotions. Basically, they're saying, bring in your textile goods that you don't want anymore and put them in the recycling bin. We are going to chop it up and then use it as a insulation material. And as an industry person specializing in the insulation material, I can tell you clearly that it is a complete lack of understanding of how insulation material works. Insulation material is not a collection of, let's say, dust material or uh, all kinds of dust mites or uh, bacteria that can live in people's old clothing or textile goods. And if you were to make that as a cleanly recycled material, then it would have to be uh, that some kind of pesticides is used to kill those bacteria or dust mites. So there are a lot of companies that are not doing things properly. And the purpose of the Clean Recycling Initiative is to reclaim textile waste without any chemicals, nor creating microplastic contaminations. So it compares with the traditional ways of recycling in the sense of dirty versus clean. In doing so, we offer three different technology categories. As Hiba just mentioned, we have inline method, pre-consumption method, and the post-consumption method. AKA, we also refer them to um, uh, level 1 to 3. And the separation of these technology categories is based on the sources of textile waste. For example, household wastes that everybody owns, and that is applicable for the post-consumption method. And the pre-consumption method is when um, these garments or textile goods are made in factories. It creates a lot of waste material, and the pre-consumption method addresses those textile waste. And the inline method, it has some specific intermediary textile materials that we deal with. So some type of fabrics, especially non-woven fabrics that we do at HeatMax, it can use inline method. Particularly inline method, it provides the most sustainable technology platform because it does not even create any carbon footprint. So it's the most sustainable technology platform that there is in the textile industry. Hiba, there is a lot to cover. I'm just covering the basics, and I think I spent quite a bit of time on this, but that is a brief summary of what I can say at this point.
So no, that's very interesting and very eye-opening. And when I read actually that a lot of the waste is shipped back to Asia, I was shocked. I always thought that the waste was recycled in the countries where it's produced. I had no idea that that's not the case. So would you say that we're not actually recycling? We're just producing the waste that we produce by recycling is just undoing our efforts. Is that true?
Well, yes, recycling, you're absolutely right, because the manufacturing hubs of textile wastes, textile goods, I'm sorry, I am accustomed to saying textile wastes, but the manufacturing hubs of textile goods are all over the world, but mostly it's in Asia, Central, South America, and those places. So where they need the raw material reclaimed from the textile plastic wastes or textile wastes, even those are overseas countries. So we have to ship these goods out.
Mhm.
So you're right. There are a lot of inefficient elements involved in the current ways of recycling. And we are trying to address those issues with the Clean Recycling Initiative as well.
I do want our listeners to understand a little bit more deeply what your different methods are. And you said that the inline method is the most sustainable of the three. Why is that? What is it about it that makes it better?
Okay, yeah, that is a great question. Without going deep in the technologies and science, basically we developed the ways of reclaiming the edgy material from the wide fabrics. So basically, in any fabric manufacturing process, most of them they only cut the middle part because that's the part where the quality is consistent. The edgy part is normally cut and thrown away. And our level three inline method will we put this edge material back to the beginning of the process and reuse it. And in order for us to do that, we had to make modifications for the existing product compositions and the performance metrics in order to make this technology work. But we have that. So even this the edge material that would otherwise be shipped out to the landfill or get burned, it it is put back in the beginning of the process, and therefore it doesn't even leave the factory, and it is even carbon footprint free technology.
So, do you believe that the methods you propose in the Clean Recycling Initiative, do you believe they have the potential to be as widely accepted as traditional forms of recycling, or do you think that's going to require a lot more education of the public? What's your timeline?
Yes, so I'm hoping that this clean recycling initiative will replace the current ways of recycling or traditional ways of recycling, because it provides so many benefits for the environment and even the cost as well. So the manufacturers will have uh, will be able to save their cost, and everybody in the textile value chain will benefit from it. The difficulties that I'm having is we are a relatively small company, and with your podcast, I'm hoping that our name will get out there. But my timeline is to promote this clean recycling initiative as quickly as possible and educate the entire industry as well as the individuals who own textile goods. Basically, it's everybody in the whole world can learn about clean recycling initiative and start practicing to save our precious environment. And my timeline, ASAP.
Sounds good. So, tell us then about the Clean Recycling Initiative case competition. What is it about? Why should McGill students participate, and what should they expect?
Yeah, sure. So the Clean Recycling Initiative, we have three major objectives that we would like to achieve. Number one, if you think about about it, the general public who are not experts in pretty much everything around us, so people have a strong tendency to create a perception in their heads with short descriptions of products or process. One example is recycling that we talked about. Most people think that recycling is good for the environment, but if you look at our video module 1 of the Clean Recycling Initiative in the our YouTube channel, people will have a clear idea that it may not be a sustainable process. Biodegradability is another thing. So there are a lot of misperception out there, but of all people in the public, I think college students, like McGill students, should learn proper things on what's important for our societies and our humanity and become a good vehicle to spread the right messages. So that's the number one reason why we're organizing this competition. And number two, we're hoping that we can get some innovative and fresh ideas that are cost effective and it can reach out to people around the globe with the messages that we want to convey with the Clean Recycling Initiative. And so the ideas that will be presented by the McGill students, we will use our industry knowledge and combine it together to make effective marketing across the globe. And number three, we all know that the McGill University has prestigious and international reputation, and we wanted to use it as a vehicle to convey the message of the Clean Recycling Initiative. So this is the reason why we organized the event, and hopefully we can achieve all these three goals.
Those are very interesting goals. So where can students get more information if they're interested in the competition?
So we just launched the competition this week, and we're hoping. In fact, was it last week on the 5th of January? So it was last week. Sorry, and we are constantly updating our website, and Anna is spearheading the communications within McGill University. So there will be updates on the website and social media accounts and things like that. And the most importantly, students should register and join our Zoom presentation scheduled on January 31st at 4:30 p.m. And there we'll be presenting the background about Clean Recycling Initiative in detail, and also the judging criteria and the deadlines, all these timelines as well.
So Anna, perhaps you want to give us your email so listeners can maybe note it down and contact you.
Yeah, so I can be reached at Anna Belford at cleanrecyclinginitiative.com. We can maybe put that in the description just for spelling or something like that.
I will do
But
that.
yes, so I can be reached there. I'll also be on both my like personal social media as well as reaching out to various groups to spread out that link for registration for the Zoom call on the 31st. And then overall that you'll be able to find that on our social media and the website. So the best thing you can do if you're interested in the competition is to register for that Zoom presentation. And then that's where you'll get all the best information about the background details on Clean Recycling Initiative, as well as next steps on how to properly participate in the competition.
And I will put that information in the description box as well. So if we are ready, we can talk about Heat MX now, or we can say a few final words about the Clean Recycling Initiative from Anna or Kenyang or Sae.
Since you mentioned biodegradable or biodegradability, I would like to briefly mention on that front as well. Once again, as I previously mentioned, a lot of people um, don't have in-depth knowledge about textile technologies. So they simply go by simple word or short descriptions, and then they make up their mind about how they perceive things. And so biodegradability, there are some companies which advertise it. And so far, I have not seen any product or technology that is truly sustainable and biodegradable. Biodegradability, in fact, the test is designed to have a certain set of manufacturing conditions, and within those conditions, uh, a plastic material or polymers can be downgraded, degraded. But the thing is, these are factory settings. These factory settings, it combines the temperature, the pressure from the gases that is surrounding the material, as well as the pressure and the temperature, and all these different elements. And so there are test laboratories that will check whether a material is biodegradable or not in those circumstances. However, those circumstances are not naturally occurring in the environment. So, for example, if you go to a landfill, would you be able to find those conditions met? And that has not been proven, and that is unlikely. And also, if you think about it, if there is a landfill close to household neighborhood, then there will be a lot of household waste that goes into the dump. But if the landfill is close to an industrial site, the composition would be quite different. So that particular set of manufacturing uh, may or may not be in place in any certain landfill. But a lot of companies will use those test conditions and then label their products as biodegradable. This is once again an opportunity for education for McGill students. When you actually come across a word like biodegradability, you have to understand, because there is a lot more behind of that word. And as students, you have to understand better what it means. And I hope this opportunity, this competition gives you that opportunity of thinking about and investigating what other companies may claim. And so I wanted to address that. And in fact, one more thing. Um, according to the European and USA standard, I'm not sure if Canada has that regulation, but you cannot use the terms of biodegradability unless you can prove that it is in fact naturally biodegradable according to their standards.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And it makes intuitive sense, because if it was truly biodegradable, wouldn't it start disintegrating after a few years of you wearing the item?
Oh, bingo! That is another really important thing that I needed to mention, but you said it. Yes, exactly. I would not wear anything biodegradable. And also, if you think about it, if a insulation material company promotes that, oh, it is biodegradable according to that test condition. However, the insulation material is sandwiched between the fabrics, right? So if you put it in landfill, being sandwiched in with the heavy, thick fabrics, so the conditions are going to be different from those test methods. So there are a lot of things that we have to think about, and unfortunately, some companies may knowingly or unknowingly promote these without having a deep understanding of these things.
Thank you. This is very insightful. So I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about your career so far and what inspired you to found Heat MX?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So, I'm a textile engineer, and I had been in the textile industry as a researcher and also as a sales and marketing person in Korea before I immigrated to Canada. And one really good, I was lucky that I had the opportunity to work as a researcher as well as sales and marketing person because normally when you uh, enter into uh, the business world, you go through either technical side of your career or sales and marketing or the admin side of things. But I was able to experience both. And why that is important is because I am able to understand what the market needs and I can make it with the proper functionalities and the technologies on the manufacturing side of it. So the linking the two is really, really important because we sometimes see products that are forced almost by some marketing initiatives to consumers, and some products fail or some products may succeed. But if the performance does not really back it up, then the products cannot be consistently successful. So I was fortunate enough to have both sides of the business worlds in my experiences. And most recently, before I established HeatMax, I was working for a company that was selling thermal insulation material. And I had an opportunity to look at a lot of different products in the market. And I felt that there was a lack of performance and also, as well as the sustainability aspect of it. So I decided to establish my own company and find ways to really provide the breakthrough technologies as well as the sustainable ways of consuming textile goods.
So, your materials have won a few awards. Can you give us a few examples and what makes your technology better than what's currently on the market?
Yes, so we won the top of innovation awards of ISPO. It's a German organization, and I consider it as a Nobel Prize in the textile industry. And we were lucky enough to earn these awards. And these days, especially, um, the criteria for the selections for different products and technologies, environment is always at the forefront. So you have to have a strong elements of sustainability in your products. And despite of the fact that we are a very young company, because I established TeamMax only about 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and we are a much lesser known company compared to a lot of other competitors that we have in the market. We were able to get these awards because of the breakthrough performances and also breakthrough sustainable technologies. So if you actually compare two products, product A has a 10% higher performance metric compared to the product B, then people would go for the product A, given that the price is competitive. But in our case, some of our products outperform the next best product in the market by 300 to 400%. So we're not talking 10%, 20%. We're talking 300, 400%.
Wow.
And even doing so, we were able to actually lower the consumption of the synthetic fibers. So that's another really big environmental contribution outside the clean recycling initiative because we're using only half of what competitors are using to reach the same level of performance. So that in itself is a huge contribution for the environment.
And how do you measure the performance of your materials? What are the metrics that you use?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in the thermal insulation business or the winter goods like the jackets, the footwear, gloves, the sleeping bags, home textiles, those we have a measurement unit called claw. Basically, it's a unit of measurement similar to meter or gram in weight and things like that. The tricky part of the claw is that you cannot have a measuring stick like the meter or gram. It has a way of measuring it, and it's not quite easy for the consumers to understand it. In our company, our for-profit company called the Heat Max, we actually established ways of indicating the performance in temperature rating, and we were able to rate some of our products down to minus 100 degrees Celsius. So it would be even good for the uh, Arctic expedition or any. In fact, we worked with military projects where they needed to equip soldiers at Himalayan environment with a strong wind and things like that. And our HinMax technologies are enough to cover those extreme needs.
And is there a meaning behind the title Heat MX? It's a lighter question, but I was just curious. Why did you call it Heat MX?
Yeah, so Heat MX. MX stands for max. Um, what it means is like the most efficient ways of keeping yourself warm is to use the heat energy coming out of your body. Because your body is a furnace, it continually generates heat energy, and unless you actually let it out, you will explode. So your body has a built-in mechanism to allow your body heat energy to escape from your body, and the goal of the insulation material is to capture that and conserve it as long as possible. So that's how thermal insulation material works. And when I wanted to name my company and brand, I wanted to indicate that it has something to do with the heat from your body and conserving it in as most efficient ways as possible. So that's how we came up with Heat Max.
Thank you. In your quest to, well, first of all, it seems that you're very invested in launching multiple types of innovation materials. How do you handle innovation within the organization? How do you keep it coming, and is it at the core of your strategy?
Yes, innovation is the core of my strategy. And also, I ask my colleagues to have a innovative approach or different approach from what other people do. And I have been lucky enough to have colleagues like Anna and Kyungyeon who are very smart and who come up with smart ways of doing things. First of all, if I follow what other people do, then it will take much longer for us to do what we are aiming to do, which is to benefit the public with both performance of our products and sustainability aspect of it. And so we don't want to follow what other people do in terms of the marketing and even the product development. We are trying to always think outside the box, and that's been our priority. And I am of the opinion that depending on your mindset and how you pursue your business, you can create much different results down the road if you have a collective effort within the organization. And so the reason why I mentioned the contributions from Kyungyeon and Anna earlier is because they have those open mindset and they've been working very well together. So we have been very innovative, and we are going to be uh, making our best effort to maintain that.
And in your quest to be more sustainable, are you also thinking of how to make the manufacturing process cleaner, or is your focus mainly on the end of life and the recycling process?
Yes, in fact, that's another great point. We are producing our products with our partner, joint venture partners in China right now, and our inline method, the level 3 method of clean recycling initiative, is done through the manufacturing, and so we are continually making an effort to make our manufacturing processes as sustainable as possible. And also, post-consumption method applies to basically everybody around the world. We'll provide more details when we are ready to supply the tags, the labels that everybody can purchase and then put it in their garment so that the sorting facilities can actually reclaim these raw materials from different parts of the garment that you put out in the clean recycling way.
Correct me if I'm wrong about this question, but what is it about your thermal insulation material that allows it to be recycled without the use of chemicals?
Yes, that it's one of the most important questions that people would have for how clean recycling initiative works. Now, the beauty of thermal insulation material is that it goes inside the garment so nobody sees it. Now, one of the biggest issues of the current ways of recycling, I briefly mentioned earlier, that the use of heavy toxic chemicals like dyes or bleach and things like that to appeal for the consumers. Yeah, we have this design, this color, and this is really appealing to you. Please buy it. So that's how the textile industry works. In order to do that, we use a lot of toxic chemicals like dyes, and but I don't have to use dyes or anything toxic because I don't need to change the appearance of the material because it goes inside. It's hidden. Nobody cares. So that is why we don't have to use any chemical, in fact. And also, another important thing to address is that the heavy mechanical process that I mentioned in the current traditional ways of recycling, we don't use that. We use melting method. In a brief summary, all the synthetic material, including the plastics, are thermoplastics. Given enough heat energy, it will melt. And we use that process in order to reclaim these material without chemicals, without any microplastic contamination in the water.
Thank you. Let's now talk about the industry more generally. One of your current clients is Kamik Boots. Do you find it easier to secure partnerships now that the industry is moving towards sustainability?
Yes, and a little bit of no. Yes, because there are companies who are looking for really sustainable technologies, and Kamik is committed with environmental protection, and they have a strong moral value in making our society better. So it's a great partner for us to do this. And in fact, Kamik is one of the co-organizers of this McGill case competition. Um, I said a little bit of no because as a smaller company with a relatively short history, we don't have a big voice in the industry. And although we have the best technology that everybody should should take advantage of, for example, Nike, if you think about the waste that we can reclaim from that brand alone, it can make a huge difference in the industry, not only the industry, for the public as well. But we have a hard time to reach these companies and try to work with them. So there is certainly an opportunity, and we want to take advantage of our technologies, but there are some limitations that we're facing as well. So this McGill case competition is certainly a vehicle that we are trying to use to reach out to these brands and influential companies.
So, and this leads us to our next question. What are some challenges that you encounter in running a business within the sustainable textile industry? Is it these big players that have relationships with suppliers for a long time and they're not willing to shift to better methods, or any?
Yeah, so the challenges we have, it's mostly the marketing side of things. I think everybody, all the brands and even retailers and department stores, they would be willing to do anything because, as I mentioned earlier, there has been a very strong outcry for the environment from the public all around the world. And some companies come up with some marketing program that does not make sense to my views, as I mentioned earlier. So I think there are a lot of companies who would be willing to do anything for the really sustainable technologies. The challenges that we are facing is not the lack of technicality for the actual technologies itself, but with the marketing side of things, getting the the messages across, and working with the large influencers to be able to do that. But we're taking one step at a time, and we're trying to find the ways to reach to these influential companies, and hopefully we will succeed. In fact, in the textile industry, if you are a B2B raw material supplier, if you can work with any one big brand, for example, Nike, as I mentioned earlier, then that can become a really big stamp of approval, and a lot of people may follow the suit. So we're trying to make one big good case sealed for the clean recycling initiative. By the way, I never mentioned that the relationship between HINMAX and the Clean Recycling Initiative is that I developed all these technologies for the Clean Recycling Initiative under my commercial activities of HINMAX, but I decided to donate it to a nonprofit organization, Clean Recycling Initiative, so that everybody can take advantage of it. Even my competitors should be able to use this material without having to pay a huge loyalty or anything like that.
And why did you prefer this approach?
Because if I do it myself and only for exclusively for HINMAX, then there will be a limitation as to how much raw material that we can reclaim. However, if everybody participates in it, then the size of reclamation, if you will be much larger. And in fact, there is more than 1 trillion pieces of textile goods all over the world. And as I briefly mentioned earlier, most of them, more than 99% of them, get buried in the landfill or get incinerated. So this is all harmful process that we have to somehow revert to a sustainable processes. So by doing that by myself or only under the HINMAX business, it's not going to make a big difference, but we want to make a big difference.
Right. And by opening it up to other players, the profitability of the industry grows in general. So it does work to your advantage in the long run as well.
That's right. Yes.
So the technology you say is there and it's possible to create these truly sustainable materials, but how about scaling the production of sustainable and high performance materials? Is that a challenge?
It is a challenge, but we were able to scale the most sustainable technology platform, like level 3, relatively easy. So if there are companies who are interested in this technology platform, I'm willing to give them all the information that they need uh, to um, to be able to adapt this easily. And the one good news is that we don't have to change any machinery part or the labor practices or anything like that, because it's a relative easy conversion from what they are currently doing to the level 3 or even level 2. So scaling is not going to be a big issue if there are companies who are interested in this.
So you're currently a B2B company. Would you ever consider manufacturing your own products and selling directly to consumers, or is that not part of your long-term vision?
Well, uh, you know, if I sell finished goods that compete against my customers, that would be ethically, not legally, because there is no law prohibiting me, to do that. But ethically, it would not be a good thing. So I will not compete against my customers, but also at the same time, it would be a loss if I cannot utilize these clean recycling initiative compliant goods and sell it to the consumers for the benefits of the environment. So we are actually working on some retail products that do not compete against my existing customers. Thank you for
Okay,
asking this question. But
it's
yeah,
interesting.
so we will promote these products out down the road, probably with a different brand name, but we're working on it.
And so, final question, what are the projects you're currently working on at both HeatMX and the Clean Recycling Initiative? I know we touched base on some of this answer, but what should we look forward to?
Yeah, sure, great. So on one side, we are one of the biggest focuses that we have is to run this McGill case competition as successfully as possible. So we're doing a lot of work on that side. And also, I spent more than 2 years in developing the technologies. And then we started selling our products under our for-profit organization, HINMAX. So promoting the sales so that we can spend more money on the sustainable technologies is also another important tasks that we are doing. And in fact, going back to your earlier question about Hinmax's own products, in fact, we're reaching out to a lot of consumers with the tags and labels of Hinmax with the Clean Recycling Initiative logos and the details in retail stores. So you can find the boots, for example, with the Hinmax tags and labels in Walmart. In Kamik's website, you'll be able to find all kinds of different footwear, boots, with Hinmax tags and labels. Yellow is selling a lot of them. So we're reaching out to a lot of consumers right now, but our goal is to make it as widely successful elsewhere outside Canada as well as in Canada. So our goal is to promote all these activities throughout the world, and our marketing team is working hard to post social media messages and a lot of different promotions at the same time.
And we can definitely link your socials in our description as well. Thank you so much, Sae, for joining us today. Lots of insightful information. I learned a lot today. So thank you.
Thank you again for the opportunity. And once again, what you're doing, my hat's off for addressing such an important subject for all McGill students. I'm sure that your message it goes out to everybody who is interested in this subject. And once again, I thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.